All right, everyone, welcome to episode 29 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. It is June the 8th, 2022. I'm Nicholas Hill, live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States. And down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, it's Gustavo Tomazeli. Gus, I know you haven't had the best of days, but I certainly hope that we can make it a little bit brighter over the next hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, I have better days. I already posted on my social medias that unfortunately, after being 2.5 years of being undefeated, I finally was down with COVID-19. I am already isolated in my apartment here in Americana. I already communicated everyone who I will had contact with that I tested positive. But it's a lot of mass gatherings here in Brazil because it's June, which is the called the month of the saints. There's a lot of like parties and a lot of gatherings and a lot of events and I have not been down going, but maybe some people that I have contact with went, and but I'm good, ready to talk some sports because in America right now you know it's finals week, but the good finals.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely. It's not school finals, even though we're not in school anymore. Um, so many finals, so many championships going on. Let's start, of course, with the team we've both covered, the Tennessee Volunteers baseball, college baseball. So the last week was the first week in the NCAA tournament, and I must say it was an absolutely chaotic regional finals across the board. Multiple different regionals went to Monday. Fortunately for the Vols, that did not happen. They were able to sweep their weekend series. Of course, they beat Alabama State Friday night 10-0. They beat Campbell Saturday night 12-7, and then they had to rally in the ninth inning to beat Georgia Tech 9-6. But I will say this: it was not the dominant performance that we've come to expect from this Tennessee baseball team. There are some errors. Pitching wasn't completely there. Um, but they found a way, and they found a way to get to the regional super regionals this weekend. They're going to be playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and of course, winner of that series will go to Omaha. And I almost feel like, in a way, at least to me, the team felt like they were playing a bit tight. Because I feel like we talked about this last week, where last year, the team really didn't have high expectations, and they bursted out onto the scene, and it was just a magical ride to Omaha. But this year, especially with as dominant as they've been all year, sweeping both SEC regular season and SEC tournament championships, the expectations are there for this Tennessee baseball team to make it to Omaha. And you almost wonder if they're going to be tight until they find a way to do that. And I feel like they got themselves through last week, and now it's a little bit, in a way, it's a little bit easier to focus now on just one opponent in Notre Dame, because in the regionals you have to be ready for 3 different opponents, which they ultimately ended up facing all 3 opponents over the weekend. And those 3 teams were not terrible. I mean, Alabama State, I thought they came out and were pitching pretty decently to start off the Friday game. Of course, Campbell has some big bats, really put the fear of God in Tennessee for a while there. They had the Vols down 4-0. Georgia Tech is a traditional power in college baseball. It was just a very interesting weekend, a pretty nerve-wracking weekend if you are a Tennessee fan, but they made it through.
And to add to that point about being nerve wracking, I feel like the team itself felt the pressure. I think at some point teams caught on to the pressure and the expectations that put on, because last year I feel like the Tennessee baseball team were still seen as the underdog, as the team that were all the surprise, but now they were the favorites, and even some players felt the pressure. Catcher Evan Russell, he had an anxiety episode
Yeah,
doing.
I must say this: ESPN should be ashamed of themselves for accusing Evan Russell of having PED issues. I mean, yeah, I mean, just because the guy misses one game doesn't mean he's like in trouble or anything. Um, just the baseless accusations that were being brought up by an Arkansas fan, which of course they can't stand the Tennessee baseball team. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. Um, it led to a commentator in the Oklahoma State regional to claim something about Evan Russell that wasn't true. And I will say this: I'm happy to see you like Danny White and other elements of the university come on and say, hey, yeah, you can't say that about one of our players. Because I don't know if we would have seen that from previous administrations.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to my friend Laline. Yeah, my friend Laline Oliveira, big reporter. Tô ao vivo, meu querido. Daqui a pouco a gente fala. Tá- tá- my friend was calling me right now, but yeah, I feel like ESPN. When I saw that, I just couldn't believe how can you accuse the player of something in a severity like that, without fact checking, with so much, with all the fact checking. How can you don't fact check in sports? Like, how can you don't, see more through it when you are the worldwide leader in sports? You're not just a blogger in Fayetteville, Arkansas, or, down in Georgia, down in Atlanta, Georgia. The team maybe covering Georgia Tech, but you're the the prime website or prime media conglomerate for sports.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some chinks in the armor too. Because remember last year where they had the whole Bishop Sycamore situation, where they literally put a team on television that wasn't even real. Like
Yeah,
clearly the fact checking just isn't what it apparently used to be for ESPN, which is quite disappointing because you expect them to be the top quality of sports journalism, but they just maybe they aren't anymore. I mean, maybe that's probably it's the Athletic at this point, if we're being honest.
yeah. It's we already discussed about broadcasting changes over the last 2 decades, but it's just a point that, like, with you alienate your viewers and your fans with examples like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a disgrace. But you're kind of moving on to this weekend series against Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, they had to win the Statesboro Regional. They beat Texas Tech in the regional final. Georgia Southern, who hosted that final, who hosted that regional, didn't even make it to the regional final. So that's pretty disappointing for them. But I haven't really watched Notre Dame. Done a little bit of research on them. From my understanding, they're a solid team. They don't have the most explosive offense. Apparently, got swept by Louisville. Only took one game from Miami. So this is a series where definitely Tennessee is going to be favored, but I do think that they do need to clean up some of the pitching, clean up some of the fielding errors, especially that we saw on Sunday. Um, if they can do that, play the way that they know that they can play, I think they'll take this series and get to Omaha. Um, just looking at some of the other series here. So there's 8 super regionals. So you have Tennessee, Notre Dame. You also have East Carolina and Texas. That will be in Greenville, North Carolina. Of course, Texas went to the College World Series last year. They swept their regional as well. They beat Air Force in the regional final. Pretty cool scene at the end of that series where the entire crowd was chanting USA, USA for the Air Force team. So that was pretty cool. To me, I think the Longhorns are going to take that series over East Carolina. I mean, East Carolina's a really good team, but I really do think Texas is the better team there. And that I think would set up a rematch with Texas in the College World Series for Tennessee. Remember, Texas was a team that eliminated Tennessee last year in Omaha. So that would be a really fascinating matchup, I think, if Texas and Tennessee play again in Omaha.
Yeah, it will be a sweet revenge. I feel like, Tennessee probably. is stronger than last year.
Oh yeah,
But,
by
but they have
far.
to make it through East Carolina, which gonna have a little more home crowd advantage.
Yeah, and definitely that's the one thing I think East Carolina definitely has going for them there. I was just definitely much more impressed with Texas's performance last weekend than East Carolina's. Down here we have Louisville and Texas A&M in the 12-5. And both of those teams really had to battle through a lot of adversity last week. I believe both teams lost a game initially, and they both had to come back through the losers bracket to win their regionals that they hosted. They both have very strong offenses. Texas A&M, I believe, has the second best offense in the country behind the balls. Of course, so
And they had a really tough and very, let's say, con- uh, a lot of controversy with the Michigan game, because from what I see the reports from our friend Jason Warwick, there were very heated fans on both sides, especially on
yeah,
the Michigan side.
Jason did not take away a very good impression at all from Michigan fans. At all, he was very, very pleased to see his Louisville Cardinals take out the Michigan Wolverines this past weekend because, according to him, they were some of the roughest fans in that he's ever encountered. So definitely good for his Louisville Cardinals, and I'm going to be rooting for Louisville here to beat Texas A&M. In terms of who I think wins, I don't know. I feel like this one's a toss-up. But honestly, I'm going to go with Louisville. I think Louisville will pull it off in College Station. You got to remember, this is A&M's first year under a new coach. So I think Louisville will have a little bit more experience here, and I think they will pull off a series win there in College Station. So down in Blacksburg, we have the 4th seeded Virginia Tech Hokies hosting the Oklahoma Sooners, who knocked off the Florida Gators. So obviously, we stand anyone that beats the Florida Gators. But here, Virginia Tech, they've been a very solid. They've really surged this season. But Oklahoma right now, I feel like is playing some of the best baseball in the country. They played very well in the Big 12 tournament. They went down to Gainesville and, were able to pull off that regional win. I think I'm going to go with the upset here. I like the Sooners to make it to
Uh,
the World Series.
I guess we're already doing predictions.
Yeah. So far, I've picked. I'm going with the Vols. Going with Texas over East Carolina. I'm going with Louisville over Texas A&M.
And I'll agree with all three: Tennessee, Texas, and Louisville. But I'm gonna go with the Sooners.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Sooners. So we've agreed at 4 for 4 so far. Oklahoma over Virginia Tech. All right, Stanford and Connecticut. Now, Connecticut was in a really wild regional with Maryland. There's some really weird stuff that happened in that game. For example, there was a run that Maryland got taken away because of this a really weird call by the referee. That was just a really weird way to end a regional. But the UConn were able to win that series. The first time in the Super Regionals for them since they had George Springer of the Houston Cheater Astros. And then you have the second seeded Stanford Cardinal, who really I didn't think played that well in the regionals, but they got through. I do think here Stanford will win, but I do think UConn's going to take a game. I think UConn will force a game free in that series.
Do you think that's the series that's going to be the most the most the matchup that has is going to go to 3?
Yeah.
The most even matchup. Yeah, I tend to agree. I feel like, and also I feel like Stanford had the easiest regional. They were playing at home with 3 programs that were not very traditional. They didn't have the same strength. But UConn play with, like, say, Wake Forest and Maryland.
Right. So but UConn has to go all the way out to California too. So that's a
Yeah.
cross-country trip. I feel like that's going to play into Stanford's hands, and they'll advance. All right, now this is one right here I'm excited for you. North Carolina and Arkansas. Now, that Stillwater regional was an insane, probably the most insane regional I've ever seen. Of course, I haven't seen that many, But so I'll set the scene here. So Oklahoma State was up like I think it was like 10-3 against Arkansas on Saturday night. And Arkansas came back and won 20-12. So now Oklahoma State has to play in the losers bracket against Missouri State Sunday morning. They fall behind 12-0. But then they go on a run and win 29-15 against Missouri State. And then they have to come back again on Sunday night from like a 3-run deficit to force a game 7 against Arkansas. And literally in the bottom of the 8th inning, down to 5-3, Oklahoma State has the bases loaded, but couldn't get anyone home. And that's how they got eliminated. Oklahoma State had the wildest regional ever and came up just short of the most improbable regional win of all time. But our good friends over in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I say good friends in jest, are traveling to Chapel Hill. I'm going to be rooting like hell for North Carolina to win this series. I really want North Carolina to win this series. I really want North Carolina to win this series. But I feel like that you're going to see Arkansas win. I just trust North Carolina, too. They had a pretty entertaining end to their series as well. They literally had to have an improbable catch off of Georgia. Georgia, it looks like they were about to hit a home run in the regional final, but the Alfred, North Carolina, reached his hand over the outfield wall, to catch it and get it out, which saved the day for North Carolina. So, but I'm feeling Arkansas, but that's going to be, I think, a very entertaining series over in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be entertaining. I definitely see the Vols fan. I gonna see the Vols fans cheering for the North Carolina, the UNC. But I would love to see Arkansas in Omaha because I want to see rivalry games. I want to see heated games. But
if Arkansas and Tennessee play in Omaha, that's gonna be a firefight. That's gonna be a tense game. Can you imagine those two fan bases going out in Omaha? It's going to be that would be, because Tennessee fans, if we win this weekend, they're going to be traveling up to Nebraska en masse, and Arkansas fans will be racing to meet them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for sure. And they're even closer to Nebraska than the Vols fans. But I that's why I'm gonna root for Arkansas. I root for rivalry. I root for big moments.
All right, so we're both picking Arkansas, though I'm not rooting for them. All right, down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Now, this will probably be the biggest sporting event in the history of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Southern Miss, the 11th-seeded Golden Eagles, hosting Big Brother Ole Miss Rebels, coming down to Hattiesburg for the Super Regional. I mean, for a school like Southern Miss, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be like all the hotels in Hattiesburg are gonna be booked. The tickets are gonna be through the roof. I'm even curious to check how the tickets to this game is, because I bet gonna be a really competitive, game, because it's little brother versus big brother.
Right. I'm looking at Ticketmaster just to see what we got here. $375 each in Hattiesburg. Only 9 tickets left. I did see for the Vols, it's like up to $1,000 for some tickets for a series against Notre Dame. So definitely, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity if you live in the state of Mississippi. And of course, we got to talk about Miami for a second. Man, they went down sad in the Coral Gables regional. They didn't even make it to their regional final either. For the 6th seed, for a historical power, they did not show up in this postseason whatsoever. Because Ole Miss beat Arizona to go to this super regional. And then the Hattiesburg regional was pretty wild too. I don't know if you saw Kennesaw State and LSU. LSU was down 11-4 on Friday. heading into the bottom of the eighth, LSU scored 10 runs on Friday night in the eighth inning to win that game 14-11. They ended up making it to that super regional, and it looked like they were going to win that super regional, but Southern Miss were able to take it away on Monday, setting up this all Mississippi matchup. I don't know who I really want to pick here. I'm feeling Ole Miss is what I'm feeling, because it feels like they've been struggling all year, but they have the talent to make that deep run.
But I think it's gonna be on 3 games. I think Southern Miss is gonna take one, but I think yes, I'm gonna take Mississippi, Ole Miss too.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm feeling. All right, in the last series here we have third seed Oregon State hosting the 14th seed Auburn Tigers. And if there's any team that I'm personally scared of as for Tennessee, it's Auburn. Because Auburn's one of the few teams that's actually come into Knoxville and actually beat the Vols this year. That offense they have behind Sonny Damachara, I think, hopefully I'm saying that right, is flying right now. I think they scored something like 35 runs in their regional. They swept their regional against Florida State and UCLA and Southeastern Louisiana. They are on fire right now. And, of course, Oregon State, they had to outlast Vanderbilt, who Vanderbilt got off to a very rocky start. They lost to San Diego, but they came back and got all the way to Monday. But they just didn't have it this year like they've had in other years. But I imagine as long as they have Tim Corbin, they'll find a way to get themselves back into national contention before long. But again, I feel like I'm picking a lot of road teams here. And I know Oregon State has a national championship in recent years. They're one of the more successful baseball programs. But I do think Auburn's just playing really, really good baseball right now. I'm going with the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going with the Tigers either, but yeah, I think they're gonna swap 2 games. I think I gotta go with Auburn.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I feel like I'll go 3 personally, but I like Auburn right now. But we'll see if their bats travel all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. So it's going to be an exciting week of college baseball. If you live in the U.S., one thing I highly recommend watching during the weekend, if you want to really get into it, there's this thing called Squeeze Play on ESPN Plus. It's kind of like NFL Red Zone, but for college baseball. That is electric. It is so much fun, and they do a really good job putting that on. So that's just my personal recommendation.
What is the name again?
It's called Squeeze Play.
Squeeze Play?
Yeah, it's basically just NFL Red Zone, but college baseball. And they did it last week for the regionals, and I think they're going to do it again for the super regionals this weekend.
Oh, it's on Watch ESPN.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's a good thing to know. But it's on normal ESPN or ESPN Plus?
It's ESPN Plus. So if you have ESPN Plus, definitely check that out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on from that. Also, just briefly, while we're kind of in the realm, college softball, the Women's College World Series. I haven't really talked a lot about that. Tennessee got eliminated weekend 1 a few weeks ago, so I really haven't paid that much attention to it. But Oklahoma and Texas, the Red River Rivalry, and soon to be SEC members are going head to head in the College World Series finals in Oklahoma City. So that's a pretty interesting thing to note. I think Oklahoma will win that series. They've been the number 1 team all year. They've only lost 3 games this year, and Jocelyn Ilo has, I think, hit like 60 home runs or something, just something ridiculous. We're going to go down as probably one of the greatest college softball players of all time. I think Oklahoma will beat Texas for the college softball World Series.
Yeah. So and they had I'll even gonna put on the screen here for those watching live. They had a not an easy way to get there. Texas had to face Oklahoma State, Oregon State, and Oklahoma took out Florida and UCLA, which I feel like were kind of like the top dogs. But what and should SEC already take pride on that?
I was going to ask that question. This is technically another all SEC championship, but I guess we can't technically call it. But I
Yeah,
think you have to ask this year, like in specific, the SEC did not perform well. I mean, you have Florida that made it, but that was the only team. I mean, Tennessee got eliminated early. There really wasn't a lot of other teams that were even close.
yeah, and Tennessee was even sadder because they lost their regionals at home.
Yeah,
They
Alabama
had
did
a chance,
well. Um,
and also it was funny that not only Tennessee or the only SEC. They were even not the only SEC team who lost home regionals. You had Alabama, you had Missouri, so only Arkansas were able to advance playing a home regionals. Oh, and Florida too. Arkansas and Florida.
yeah, so it's just SEC. I mean, because SEC normally is like the best softball conference too. So it's they gotta. Of course, when we get Oklahoma and Texas, we'll get better automatically. But not a great season. But definitely, at least we got baseball to fall back on.
Yeah, shout out to my man Bruno Slonik. I saw your message, my man. Thank you. He always watching us and big supporter of of our podcast. But I appreciate. But let's see what's gonna happen down this weekend. When Tennessee play again is gonna be starting
Friday,
on
they'll
Friday.
play Friday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that game will be on ESPN two against Notre Dame. They play 2 p.m. on Saturday. And then again, if they have to play on Sunday, that time would be announced later. But hopefully, they're able to get it done by Saturday afternoon, and we can just kind of go ahead and book our tickets to Omaha. But this is baseball; you gotta play every game, gotta win it every game to get there. All right, let's move on to the ice. The NHL playoffs. We're in the conference finals, and one of them's already done. The Colorado Avalanche, continuing to be the most impressive team to me in this postseason. They swept the Edmonton Oilers 4-0 in the Western Conference Finals. And once again, for like the 28th straight year, a team from Canada will not win the Stanley Cup. I mean, what's it going to take for Canada to get back the Lord Stanley Cup? It looks like there's always something that's going to go against them.
And what a way to be eliminated in a swept.
Yeah.
Swept.
I mean, they didn't do any better against the Avalanche than the Predators did. So
So how much favorite do you think the Colorado Avalanche is? Because they literally lost only 2 games out of eight out of 14.
yeah, I think they're gonna be the favorites. Now it depends on who they face. So in the Eastern Conference Finals, we have the Rangers and the Lightning, and that's tied at 2. So the Rangers took off to a 2-0 lead. The Garden was rocking, but the Lightning at home in Tampa, down at was it Alico Arena, I think it's what it's called. They had brought it back to 2-2. And now we have a game 5 tomorrow at Madison Square Garden. And I feel like this is pivotal. The Rangers have to win this game. If the Rangers lose at home in game 5, I think it's curtains. I think it's lights out for the Rangers.
Yeah, it's a must-win game. They have to take advantage on their home field. They have to win this game. They
Yeah,
cannot let Tampa close out at home.
absolutely. If they go back to Tampa down 3-2, it's curtains. I just right now I still trust the Lightning more. Even though the Rangers have played really well in this series, at least in the first 2 games, I trust the Lightning more to win this series.
I still take my the Rangers. My Bruno Slonik actually is a big Rangers fan, so I want to see New York back in the finals because it just feels different. Madison Square Garden hosting the Stanley Cup Finals, that feels different. And Tampa already had their time. They are. I know they're trying to build a dynasty. It's weird. A Florida team building a hockey dynasty. It doesn't feel right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And definitely, I think at this time next week I'm gonna have to message Dylan see if we want to come back on, but because I believe I think it's the 18th will be the first. Let's see, game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I think I saw that was the 18th or something. The Stanley Cup Finals start either the June 15th or June 18th. So it'll be either next Wednesday or next Saturday. So we're getting close. So this time next week, by the time we do our next episode, we should have the Stanley Cup Finals to talk about, which should be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
and tomorrow, imagine how New York is feeling this game tomorrow. I cannot even imagine.
yeah, and also I'll say this too: Sean McDonough being the head AHL commentator. Chef's kiss, love it. Although I'm kind of sad TNT's coverage has ended because I thought their coverage was better, but of course, they ended with a sweep with the Avalanche, so we don't get to see Wayne Gretzky anymore on TV. You also might hear some thunder in the background. It is storming here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Anyway, moving on to the NBA Finals. We are about 15 minutes away. Well, really, I guess about 20, 25 minutes away from the start of Game 3 between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. And then in the first two games in the series have been very, very interesting. So Game 1 was last Thursday, and so both games have had very tight first halves, with a lot of back and forth. In Game 1, Steph Curry really took off. He hit, was it like 5 3-pointers to start off in the first quarter, had 18 points. And in both third quarters, the Warriors have come out of halftime and just smoked the Celtics. The Warriors are up by 15 by the end of the third quarter in Game 1, and they're up by, I believe, 18 at the end of Game 2. But they both had very different outcomes. The Celtics were able to come back in Game 1, and they won that first game in San Francisco. And then Game 2, they ran out of the building. But for me, Boston being able to take 1 out of 2 games is absolutely massive, because now you have the home field advantage or home court advantage, and now you're back home in Boston. And I can't wait to see this crowd in Boston tonight, because it's been 14 years since Boston has hosted the NBA Finals, and those fans are going to be going absolutely insane. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I cannot even imagine, how TG Garden is gonna be like, because those fans have been long awaiting, because they saw the Red Sox winning a world champions. They saw the Boston Bruins winning the Stanley Cup Finals, and the Boston Celtics did not make it during this period.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now, and the Celtics are historically the most successful team. So
Yeah,
now they're back. And I'll say this, I feel like for about 7 of 8 quarters so far, the Warriors have been the better team. It's just the Celtics were the better team for 1 quarter, and that got them the Game 1 victory on Thursday. I think one player to really watch is Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum has not played very well in the first 2 games. He'll need to play a lot better, I think, in this Game 3
yeah.
for um,
Even though he has averaged 20 points per game in this finals, he has not been the clutch player.
no, it's been an inefficient 20 points. He needs, I think, to be more consistent, because a lot of people say he's like a young Kobe or something like that. He's like a young superstar. Well, superstars show up in the NBA Finals. Legacies get written in the NBA Finals. I need to see more from him before I crown him a superstar. Because he's a star, but I don't think he's a superstar. I think another player to really watch too. Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson at 25 in Game 2. He's been really clutch throughout this postseason. A lot of people question whether or not he'd get back to the level he was at before his injury a couple years ago against the Raptors, but he's proven that he can still shoot. He can still shoot the lights out. And I'll say this, in terms of the Celtics defense, they gotta find a way to cover Thompson and Curry better. For some reason they're using drop coverage against the Warriors, which is really stupid, because literally they're like the greatest 3-point shooting duo of all time. Like you gotta pressure them. You gotta get them off that 3-point line. So I'll see if they change their tactics any. Um,
Yeah, and this series has been so even. Look at this average. Golden State has only two and a half, 3.5 point average more than the Celtics. The Celtics has only like a half rebound, and in terms of assist, four assist. It just show how even this series is, even in terms of performance in both of the games. Golden State crushed game two, and the Boston Celtics came stronger in game one.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think another player too, Al Horford, he had 26 in game one, only had two in game two. So I think that's a player you got to watch. I'm curious to see if Grant Williams can have another big game. Derek White, he was 4-13 in game two, but he had some really clutch shots in game one. So that's another player to watch for the Celtics. They use a lot of players, the Celtics. So in game two, they had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different players that saw the court in game two. They have a deep bench. And I think one thing that you could try to do if you're the Celtics, try to get the transition game going. Try to make the Warriors run up and down because the Warriors, they aren't going to play as many players as the Celtics are going to, because definitely the Warriors' core is more concise.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the it's like the Golden State Warriors. They need to win this title to, I think, cement their legacy in the last 10 years. I feel like there has been the team of the decade. They want
The head coach there
they
in the day.
Yeah,
they want they want to cement that, but also I think the Celtics has the younger team. The team has to prove more.
right. And definitely so far, I think because we talked about last week how the player that had the most on the line in this series is Steph Curry, because he's never won a Finals MVP, and that's the one thing people tend to knock him on. You don't have a Finals MVP. You haven't shown up in the NBA Finals like you've shown up in the regular season. But so far, he had 34 in game one. He's had 29 in game two. Um, he's shooting over 40% from 3-point land. So far, I'd say he's probably the MVP of the series. Um, if he can keep that up and the Warriors win it, I think he'll get that MVP trophy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think but it, you talk about Stephen Curry, right?
Yes.
And if he wins this Finals MVP, do you think he'll be in the same conversation with Michael and LeBron?
No, 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 no. I don't. Yeah, you gotta want to. I mean, LeBron has 4 Finals MVPs. Jordan has 6 Finals MVPs. No, no. Yeah,
But in the second tier, like maybe compared to like Kobe.
yeah, yeah. I think he's definitely on that tier. I think he's in the Kobe tier. Probably, I think he's below like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I think he's comparable like a Hakeem Olajuwon all time, or like a Tim Duncan all time, or something like that. He's not Jordan or LeBron. No, no. Jordan and LeBron are generational talents. Now, granted, Steph Curry is generational in terms of his pure shooting ability, but Jordan and LeBron are two of the most all around players of all time. So, and
I,
Curry
I
is
feel I feel like Stephen Curry was a generational player in terms of changing the style of the game, but he wasn't able to replicate the success long term in terms of winning like Michael or even LeBron.
yeah. I mean, here's a qualifier. Could you put Curry on like the 2007 Cavaliers, and could he carry them to the finals? No. Only LeBron or Jordan could have carried that team to the finals. Um, and just because like LeBron and Jordan could carry bad teams far. I mean, look at last year. Curry had like a record season, and the Warriors didn't even technically make playoffs. They lost in the playing game. So I mean that's to me where you have to really evaluate all players all the time. How far could they take a team by themselves? LeBron has taken some horrible teams to the finals over the
Oh
years.
yeah, or even the 2015 uh, Cavaliers in the finals, where he did not have the two best players, and he took Stephen Curry and one of the best teams the Warriors had down to, I think, 6 games.
Yeah, and honestly, probably I think he should have won MVP in that series. As crazy as that sounds, I know his team didn't win, but I mean, if you look at his statistics, he had like 33, 10, and 8 or something like that. Just something ridiculous. Like single-handedly made that a competitive series. Um, yeah, I mean, and you know, say all you want. Obviously, there's a lot of things to dislike about LeBron. You know, part off the court for a lot of different people, but in terms of his pure on the court ability, I mean, he's no question one of the top 2 players of all time. Also, you know, speaking of LeBron, you know, he did become a billionaire last week, so congratulations to him on that. Um, Pretty cool. I also saw one of his baseball cards sold for like $15 million or something like that. So, you know, some cool news for him as he is not playing right now in the NBA playoffs, but definitely his legacy is already set in stone. He's, you know, to me, that 2016 finals run cemented him as a top 2 player for me all time. And coming back from 3-1.
Yeah, and also he won with the Lakers. And then people can argue, oh, was the bubble year? Still, it counts as an NBA title. He
Just,
won with 3 different teams. That's unheard of.
yeah, for sure. I mean, even when Jordan tried to go to another team, it didn't work out like that. Of course, Jordan wasn't in his prime anymore with the Wizards, but
But both were what ago from Santos. But both were on like by the end of their careers. But LeBron was able to finish their career. He was able to craft better. He was able to transition better.
oh, absolutely. I would definitely say so. And that's the thing about LeBron too. He has had multiple different peaks. He's had different styles of play. He's gone from being athletic to being, you know, an all offensively around gifted. He's always been one of the best passers in the game. You know, he's able to do a lot of different things. Really, the one weakness, in my opinion, has been his defense over the years, and I feel like that's been more of over recent years, as I feel like he's starting to conserve more energy for offense. But even then, early on in his career, he was pretty good at defense. So it's just I think anyone who tries to claim LeBron James sucks doesn't know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, and now with his, a lot of people take his political views to kind of you know downgrade what he did on the court, which is you know it's I think two peas in a like it's two different things. Like you can disagree with LeBron politically, but still see him at a really good, really amazing basketball player.
Yeah, and it's just weird too because it's just like that. He's far from the only person who does some hypocritical things, right? Like I mean, we're all humans. We all do hypocritical stuff, and it's just the the fervor of the hate against him is just. I've always found it weird. True, like it's obsession. Like you have certain people, like like a Clay Travis, for example, who just could not get enough about talking about LeBron James. Yeah, like every single day, like oh, it's like today, how did LeBron James suck today? Or like, how did Colin Kaepernick suck today? You know, it's just, you know, don't you have anything more important to talk about? You know, I mean, there's actual issues in our country where gas is like $5 a gallon, and all this other stuff, and yet people are so worried about LeBron James and where he makes his tennis shoes. And yeah, I don't like the fact they're making their shoes with weaker slave labor in China, but he's far from the only one who's doing that. So I don't know. We'll definitely leave it at that. But you can't use all of that to discredit him as like the best, as one of the top 2 basketball players of all time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just sorry. I was reacting to. I'm watching the game right now between Santos Internacional Brazilian Championship, and Santos is a team that probably hates VAR the most in the world.
What happened?
They got another goal that in my view, was legal, was not offside, but then VAR review it and disallow it again.
That's insane.
Santos cannot catch a break. It was even like the third or fourth game in a row that this happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where is the consistency?
Yeah, and like Santos fans are gonna ask, why only us? Why only happened to us? It's like when teams, I don't know, in football, like only see the refs go one way. Like you know, I'm sorry to interrupt about the American topics. Just when that situation, when the Santos scores, like they're gonna find a way to disallow it, and there it is. But back to NBA, I think Game 3 tonight is gonna go Golden State.
I would agree with that. I actually no, I'm gonna go Celtics tonight, and then the Warriors take Game 4, and then the Warriors win Game 5 and 6. I think the Warriors are gonna take this thing in 6.
I think Warriors in 7.
I could see that too. This will be a very competitive series down to the end.
But I think it's gonna be a great final. Two traditional teams, but I think Boston has more urgency.
Yeah. So some other quick topics here to finalize the American side of things. So NASCAR went to St. Louis this past week for the first time. Well, the Cup Series did. Their smaller series have been going to Gateway. It's a track that's right across the river from St. Louis. It's just kind of as a weird kind of a paperclip type of track. I thought it was a pretty decent race, but the controversy was so Ross Chastain, one of the top drivers in the Cup Series this year, he's won 2 races. He wrecked 2 different drivers in the race. He wrecked Denny Hamlin, who won the Coke 600 last week, has 2 wins of his own, and he also wrecked Chase Elliott, the most popular driver in the entire league. And then on an ensuing restart, both Elliott and Hamlin proceeded to put Chastain in the wall. And Chastain, in an interview after the race, said, I was driving like an idiot the entire race, and we'll have to pay the consequences. Just a very, I've never seen a driver take full responsibility for wrecking other people like that. Chastain, he's been known as a very aggressive driver. And I'll say that it's worked out for him quite a bit this year, but you can't be wrecking everyone in the league, because otherwise they're going to start wrecking you back, and they're going to start wrecking you when they get to the playoffs, and you need to have good runs, and they're going to want to sabotage you and prevent you from winning a championship. It's just not a good strategy. So he's going to have to rein it in. He's still a pretty young driver as well. Got a ton of talent, but he's got to race smarter. I can't hear you guys.
Yeah, because when you tantalize, when you kind of like provokes or even seen as the reckless driver, you tend to be, kind of all the other drivers gonna hate you, so they're gonna go after you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Not NASCAR is the last sport where you want to make enemies.
Yeah,
because you can make enemies in all these other sports, but they still can't really do anything to you in retaliation. In NASCAR, they can retaliate. So it's that'll be very interesting. Joey Logano, by the way, got the win, his second win of the season in a Gateway over Kyle Busch. They race at Sonoma this weekend. And then the last American topic, the U.S. men's national team. First and foremost, they did have a draw with Uruguay on Sunday, 0-0. I didn't get to see the game, but I heard they did play. From what I heard, they played pretty solidly to a draw. But obviously, if you want to succeed over in Qatar, you're gonna have to find a way to generate some offense. We'll see.
And
If
Uruguay is known to have a stronger defense. They always play tough on defense.
Yeah, so it's really a good experience getter to have. But we finally found out who the 4th team in the U.S. group is going to be in an intense games in Cardiff on Sunday. Wales outlasted the world's favorite Ukraine 1-0. And that was such a heartbreaking game, because I was rooting for Ukraine. I wanted Ukraine to win. I feel like everyone outside of Russia wanted Ukraine to win.
And Wales too.
And Wales, yeah, because this is the first time Wales has been to the World Cup. I think they said since the '60s.
1958,
Right?
last time.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, it's great for them, but I mean, it's just could you imagine just how incredible that would have been if Ukraine, in a year where they get invaded by Russia, they go to the World Cup. I mean, that would have been just one of the craziest sports stories I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was. It would be like a good feel story, but that Wales generation deserved. Gareth Bale, he probably is gonna go down as the most important Wales player. And he has some tough competition. Ryan Giggs, Ian Rush. Both also cement legacies in Wales. Both had importance in Great Britain. One was the pretty important player in the Man United dominance in the 90s and 2000s, and Ian Rush was the most revered striker in Liverpool in the 80s. But Gareth Bale, success in Tottenham, success in Real Madrid, he took Wales not only to the first Euro, but to a semis in 2016 in Euro for Wales, and now they're in the World Cup. Ryan Giggs was we're gonna share the success, but he is out at the moment. He was the Wales manager, but he's out because of a trial involving a family member. So now the interim manager took over, but they were still able to carry on.
Right. And now for Wales, outside just playing the US, they get to play big neighbor England. They, and I can only imagine what it's gonna be like in the southwestern part of the British Isle of Great Britain on that day when they play England. I mean, that's gonna be probably the biggest day of Welsh soccer history when they play England.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like a holiday, a national holiday. It's gonna be a national holiday.
Yeah, because Wales, at least when because actually I went over to England for a month to study, and from what I gathered about Wales, they are they have a lot of pride about their Welsh identity. They allow them to speak Gaelic and Welsh, and they really would like to see themselves as different than England, even though they're technically a part of the same country of the United Kingdom. And this is a massive moment because for Wales in this cup. Um,
It
and
is. It
speaking
is.
of England, they're kind of coming into this World Cup kind of struggling. I mean, they just lost to Hungary in the Nations Cup, um, and they're not what I feel like they're kind of still reeling from losing the Euros in Wembley last year.
Yeah, definitely.
So this group's going to be interesting because remember, so you have Wales, England, the United States, and Iran. So so now that we know we're going to get Wales here, how do you think the U.S. Matches up against Wales? Obviously we're going to have to deal with Gareth Bale, of course. I mean, been one of the best strikers in the world for like a decade now. But who else should U.S. soccer fans watch out for in this Welsh team in terms of matching up against the U.S. team when we get to November?
It's a great question. I mean, they have a very tough team. They play very. Uh, I feel like they play very British style. Very strong on defense, and try to get counterattack because even when they played at home, Ukraine had 22 shots. They only had 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
they were parking the bus there in the second half because I caught like the last 30 minutes of it. They were parking the bus the entire time.
yeah, so that's their style. Play hard on defense and try to get a counterattack goal.
So it's interesting too. You say the British style because the U.S. is going to have to face that in 2 out of their 3 matches because they got to face England and Wales. So it almost feels like going into this World Cup, they really got to find a way to really, prevent counterattacks.
Yeah, and other player to watch is Aaron Ramsey. He had a good run with a 10-year with Arsenal. Now he's on the loan with Glasgow Rangers, which just went to the just went to the Europa League final. So he is a player to watch.
Right. Yeah, so I'm gonna be very curious to see how they attack. Because do you bring a similar game plan to both Wales and England,
But
or do you try to change it up a little bit?
I'll try to change it a little bit. But in terms of a geopolitical spectrum, what a World Cup group. You had two, one, let's call it a home rivalry, because Wales and, you know,
England.
England, they had some tense moments down their history, with the Great Britain. And U.S. and Iran, you don't have to detail how much Iranians don't like U.S. as much.
Yeah, well, at least the governments don't like each other very much right now. That's for sure. And then, of course, historically, the U.S. and England have had their issues, but now they're great allies. But
And even on World Cup, the one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history was U.S. defeating England in 1950.
right, and it feels like for England going into this World Cup, it feels like they have to make it for the Euro last year. They got to make it their home fans for blowing that in Wembley, and it feels like they're going to have all the pressure in the world. But for the U.S., to me, I feel like this is a mulligan year. This is all right. Get experience and get yourself ready for when you host in 2026, because that's when you have the pressure. That's when you need to be ready to make a run, because that's your moment to really cement soccer as a top sport in the U.S. when we're hosting it, because it's going to be a massive deal, and we need the U.S. soccer team to go on a run, because if they choke in 2026, then they may have blown their opportunity. I think to really like jump up into a powerhouse echelon, because here's what I'm thinking. If they do well in 2026, more kids are going to want to go play soccer, and then 10, 20 years down the line, we'll have some really top level soccer players.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they had to already get the moment going for the next World Cup. I think they have to think about this World Cup's going to be important for the next one. And a
Yeah,
quick update in Boston, Massachusetts. Celtics up by 8 in the first quarter, 12-4.
yeah, they are off to a very hot start right now. Here, 8:45 left in the first quarter, and it looks like they just scored again. But I don't know if they got. I think they called an offensive foul. Yeah, because the Boston fans don't look
Now,
particularly happy.
here is 8:37 now. Let's see what is now there.
It's eight. I've got 8:45. You're ahead of me. That's a
Oh wow.
even though
Wow.
I'm watching the ABC telecast. I don't know what channel you have.
Yeah, I'm watching it. It's also is really cool here in Brazil. NBA final now is broadcasting on the national television, not only cable. It's like broadcasting on the Brazilian Fox or Brazilian CBS.
Yes, I saw Curry just scored, so now it's 12-7. I but then he got another open shot. They got to find a way to like not let Curry get an open shot, because like he's just been killing them all series. Curry is going. Marcus Smart's backing down on Curry, and he got himself a shot. So now it's 14-7. We can't get us.
What a hair of Marcus Smart. I love it.
Oh yeah, Marcus Smart. He's a pretty flamboyant player, but he is probably one of the best defensive guards in the entire league right now. He plays extremely good defense, but he's getting better and better as an offensive player too.
But we're gonna keep update on that for those on our live cast in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. But let's move on to Brazilian topics. And now I'm gonna start my Brazilian topics with my hometown team, Rio Branco. I'm gonna show also since it's kind of like a broadcast, not like tough as others to like block, so we can see the highlights for those watching. And I'm describing it. So that's Rio Branco on white, scoring first with Guilherme Diaz. And he
Nice.
had a what?
That was a nice corner.
Nice corner by Natud, our number 10. Nice corner. And we score first. We're playing on the road versus Paulista of Jundiaí, one of the most traditional teams in the countryside of Brazil. They won the Brazilian Cup back in 2005. I mean, they played in the South American Championship in 2006. They almost went to the first division in 2006, but then they went downhill, and now they're in the fourth division in the state. So Rio Branco scores first, but then Rio Branco, with not playing good on defense sometimes, let open shot from Carlinhos, a really beautiful shot, as I think
Oh,
you can see, Nick. Really beautiful shot. I didn't think was a goalkeeper's blunder. I don't think he made a mistake. We're gonna see it again for those watching. I don't think he. I think was all the credit due to the number 10 Carlinhos. Well, I think the problem on this play, and we're gonna see it again, was the open, the amount of space he had to shot. There was look. Nobody went to get him.
like that, you can't leave a guy that wide open in the middle at all.
Yeah, you just can't. And Rio Branco, they had two tough midfielders, Murilo and William Montero, and they didn't got two in.
Yeah.
That
And that's just a perfect shot. I mean, the best shot I think it was the saying is the best shot will be the best goalkeeper every single time.
Yeah, yeah. But Wellington, the goalkeeper, had a chance to redeem himself in the second half, in the beginning of the second half, when the Vitor Serra shot and Wellington. I was broadcasting the game. I want to put just this part for you to listen. The emotion on display. I just want you to listen.
It's gonna be wild.
Autorizado Vitor Ceará. Eu tô
I'm with
contigo,
you,
Wellington. Eu
Wellington.
tô contigo, Wellington. Wellington. Defendeu o goleiro do Tigre. Eu falei.
I said it.
Eu falei que ele ia
I said he's gonna
pegar.
cut.
No canto direito. Foi no canto certo, João.
Yeah, I mean, anytime the goalkeeper gets a save on a penalty kick, the announcer should go wild. I mean, because that's
Yeah,
that's one of the hardest things to do in all sports.
and I felt that he was gonna catch because he on the practice on Thursday he saved a penalty. So I was like, I thought about that, and then he saved it again. So he had a so before we went to the second goal, a little bit before that, we had a really sad moment, a really tough moment, and that plays with something that has been happening in America, but in Brazil as well, which is racism. In around the 80th minute, Rio Branco's defender Guilherme Diaz, the one that scored the goal, allegedly, we have to say allegedly, heard Paulista of Jundiaí defender Coyote saying to him, "Monkey, monkey."
Oh man, yeah.
And then the game stopped for like 4 or 5 minutes. But the problem is, on those competitions, you don't have like the top of the art camera crew that can catch like lib, like the lib, the lib, the what the players are seeing on the field. And even this game, especially the second half, the broadcasting crew have all sorts of troubles. I even went to talk to them afterwards, and they were like, missing quite a few people on their crew. They had problems in the second half, so they couldn't even show the game right. So there were no video proofs of that moment. But I took the players' word out of it. They went to the police. They made a police report on that. The referee mentions as well on his report, although he said that it was a he said situation, and of
So,
course,
so my question: so if the police got involved and they found that the player did it, what would the penalty be in Brazil for that?
you'll go to prison. You'll go to
Oh
prison.
wow, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Um,
now is a crime in Brazil. It's Article 20th. Practice, indulge, or incite discrimination or prejudice on race, color, ethnicity, religion, or national origin. It's you go to prison for 1 to 3 years and a fine.
wow, that's something that would never be passed in the U.S. due to the First Amendment. I feel like, but then again, that we do have hate crime laws. Then obviously, if it's proven that you said something like that and then commit another crime in conjunction with that, it would enhance the crime. But just purely saying something racist wouldn't land you in prison.
Yeah, but in Brazil it does. But the problem is you need to build up a case. You need to have video proof or like audio proof, which is hard. And especially and even on the first division is hard. When you have the top of the art crew, the best cameras. This week actually, there was another case that happened 2 weeks ago with a player called Edenilson from Internacional. Also said the Corinthians player Rafael Ramos said the same term, but the cameras couldn't conclusively describe what he said or couldn't conclusively prove that.
Yeah, it's also
He,
weird too. That seems like that seems to be the slur of choice is calling other people monkeys because obviously in the U.S. we have like the N word and those
yeah,
type.
in Brazil is this term. It's the this term is the like the go-to move for, and not even in Brazil. I think I mentioned before on our podcast that Argentinians fans have been mimicking monkeys on the stands, throwing bananas. So
Yeah,
it's very South American kind of term.
yeah. That's and I guess obviously you think like the rainforests are down there, so I guess that just naturally fits in.
Yeah, yeah,
But
it's a more like, especially used by to refer to slaves back in the 16th and 17th centuries.
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, it's like the same term with the N words, like you refer to the slave period.
yeah.
But
That's that.
but that moment definitely affect the team. I felt like, because literally after that, on a cross on the left side, Guilherme Arruda, on a set piece, on a corner kick, had score. I know, and even Guilherme Diaz, all emotions and still processing what happened, on a post game interview, said to us that he was also disappointed by the fact that Rio Branco has a lot of problems on set pieces, on crosses, defending crosses, because there's a lot of attention.
I'm about to say why were they so wide? Because usually you're supposed to be packed in on a
Yeah,
like if we look at that again when he comes when they do the corner because just look how wide they are. There were plenty of spots for a police the player to come in and get that goal.
yeah, that's been the problem with Rio Branco all season long, which is the lack of pressuring, special marking on crosses. That's I think out of Rio Branco has conceded 7 goals.
Mm,
Out of the 7 goals, I think was like 4 were the same kind of goal. Cross in the area, the player comes from behind and had.
yeah, like you got to like keep someone back with the player at
Yeah.
least.
And it was even funnier that when Rio Branco announced the team schedule and practice for this week, one was a specific training on crosses, offense and defense. So even the coach acknowledges that's a problem that he needs to fix.
Yeah, well, at least they got a goal on offense, so at least they made progress there. But they
Yeah,
clearly got to work on the defense.
yeah. No, yeah. So that was the result. Rio Branco lost 2-1. They're still in second place in Group 4, 4 points ahead of Amparo. They're gonna play first place in the Itapirense on Saturday at home in Decio Vita Stadium. I'm kind of sad because I'm gonna have to watch this game from home and do the broadcast from home, which is weird because I've been going to all the games since last year, but it's a must-win game. They need to win to, still be on the qualifying uh, position. Don't let Amparo or Paulista to get closer, but they need to win this game. It's a must-win game already.
Yeah, it's gonna be a throwback to 2020 when we were covering Falls games from home.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's gonna feel like it. That's of course, my crew is gonna be at the stadium. I already arranged that, but there's gonna be a weird situation. But I think Rio Branco is calling. I think Rio Branco has big chance. I think Rio Branco is gonna qualify, but I think the problem is the next round, the second round, when they're gonna face tougher teams, and they need to get shape better roster, especially because they only had one defender on the on like they had overall three defenders on the roster. So they
Oh,
have
3 defenders, like, just total?
yeah total. So they need to get I think another one to
Wait,
kind
so
of
what
like
formations have they been using then? Because, like,
4
usually,
for two. They have the two defenders they're playing is Guilherme Diaz and Lauzarelli. I think they're good enough for now, but they need to get a more tougher, especially a defender that can defend better on the crosses.
yeah, because that's I mean, it's no wonder it's a wonder why they're not giving up more goals then. Because if you're having to play 4 midfielders and you have 4 strikers and the 2 defenders or 4 forwards, I mean, that's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. I mean, and the problem is only now the lack of reserve, especially on defense, because you know Jair, the other defender, his I think was good. I haven't seen him play more to analyze him, but the more options, the better. And I think Rio Branco needs to have this, you know, kind of strength the roster, especially if you qualify to the second round and then you have to play tougher teams. Because right now Rio Branco is playing kind of like a, they play União São João, which is really struggling. I mean, they haven't won a game, even though it has been 7 games already. They,
Mhm.
So that's for me. But I think Rio Branco is on the right track. Fans, of course, always overreact when the team loses, but they just needed some tweaks there and there to I think have a good team to get promoted. But that's my Rio Branco report, and I'm gonna talk because I've been following Rio Branco because I still am a big Tennessee fan, but Rio Branco is my Tennessee Volunteers because
Uh,
especially the way I'm involved. I was the only radio station in Americana down in Jundiaí on Saturday broadcasting the team.
yeah, I mean, and that's awesome. I mean, definitely. I mean, you are there, right, like regardless. So it's definitely
Yeah.
you are the. I imagine there's not many people on this planet that know more about Rio Branco than you do.
Oh, there's that. I mean, this book answers better. This guy is amazing. Claudio Gloria. He made an almanac of all the games, all the moments Rio Branco had throughout their history.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a if the Vols had a book like that, they would like go crazy because I know
Well,
Americans.
I do have a book like that somewhere. It chronicles Tennessee football history from 1891 up to like 2006.
Yeah, this one it goes like I think up to like 2020. That was when it was finalized.
Yeah,
That
but
was actually
it's a beautiful book though. Like there's so many. I have like so many postcards from it. I have framed in the room and stuff. It's like game tickets from like 1950, and it's just how Tennessee football evolved over such a long time. It was
yeah, that's kind of like Rio Branco is because Rio Branco has such such a rich history because Rio Branco was founded in 1913 with as a roots, even American roots, because they were one of the founders were descendants of the Confederates that came to Americana area. So
yeah,
Rio
but
Branco
that's
has
why it's called Americanas because
yeah, that's just why the city is called Americana because we're founded by Americans running away from the Civil War.
yeah.
And then Rio Branco had to, kind of stop playing in the 50s, but then other teams in Americana took over, and then they kind of sum up together to come back as Rio Branco. I mean, Rio Branco, I think, is the only team in the world that had 3 players coming from their academy, their youth, playing in the World Cup for 3 different countries. That's still unheard of. I think that's never going to happen again.
Hmm. Yeah, that seems unlikely.
Yeah. But moving on to the top tier of Brazilian soccer, Corinthians lost it 1-0 to Cuiabá. Edison window score. There's one law in Brazil which is like everybody jokes about. That's the law that has been kind of like always the only law that works in Brazil is called the X law. When your team plays against another team and this other team has a player that played for your team, they always scored. So Corinthians lost thanks to a goal of a former Corinthians player.
Hmm.
And so like we always joke about like this law is like the most sure law ever. If you have a if you're playing if your team is playing against another team that has a player that played for you before, he's gonna score most
Mhm.
likely. But Corinthians still in the first place, even though they lost. But the controversy was that striker Joe was out of the game due to an injury, a foot injury. But he was seen in a club playing the I don't know what the name of the instrument, like toot, 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 toot. It's like a he playing an instrument on a club while the team was losing. And the guy who shot the video, he was like, I even gonna show the video to you, but he was like showing the game and showing the guy playing.
Yeah, so it sounds like I guess DeAndre Ayton recently, where like they weren't completely into the game, even though they were losing terribly.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna show the video for you to analyze, but he was kind of made Corinthians fans and management very upset. So this is the guy showing the video, see, showing the game,
Hmm.
Vendo o vídeo dele.
and then showing the game, and he was like very mad. And then he shows the player. It's like, look at him, look what he's doing, while the team that we love is losing.
Okay, so I guess so he's injured. I'm assuming,
He was injured. He was out of the game due to an injury.
right? And so he's just hanging out in a club. Yeah, you got to cut him.
Yeah, and he has been out of the team before due to let's say problems outside of the field. He was already having drinking problems and
Mhm.
personal problems. And guess what today? He did not went to training.
Yeah,
So things keep
got it.
getting worse and worse for him.
It kind of reminds me of like an Antonio Brown almost.
Yeah, he's very Antonio Brown. He's talented, he's a good player, but he lost himself.
Yeah, that or like I don't know if you ever heard of the story of Marcus Dupree. He was a running back in the '80s. Have you ever seen? As a 30, he had a 30 for 30 on him.
Oh yeah, I think I remember him.
Yeah, because he played for Oklahoma, but he really just wasn't committed to training, and he went home over a winter break and gained like 50 pounds. And even though he was still running for like 300 yards in the Fiesta Bowl that year, the Barry Switzer was like, "Get lost."
Yeah. So in today's sports environment, you have to be 100% committed because I guess back in the past, you could still go out and have fun because the chances of you being exposed were, very slim because you had to do something really bad for the media to show. But now everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can, everybody's their own reporter. So this guy was, I guess, he took the courage to make a video of the situation.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's just
And,
sports is
and,
sports.
and the way that he did the video was ironic because he first showed the game, the team was losing badly, the team was playing really bad, and then from the game he pointed to the player because he was like drinking and playing the instrument while the team was losing. He now was having like a bad reaction, like darn it they were losing, or like sad. I think what made the fans really mad about the situation was the lack of empathy that he had with the team playing. Was not a video of him playing the instrument after the game or several hours after the game. Was while the team was playing. I think that made it worse.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it's definitely worse during the game. But even like if it was a couple hours after the game, like bro, like you need to be resting. You need to be getting like yourself back, or your body right to get back on the field to help the team. I mean, it's just not a good look, regardless. Even if the team won, like I'm not saying don't go out and have fun, just just really think about the message that sends to the team when, oh, I can't show up to be a part of the team, but I'm still going to go out and do me.
Yeah, so Corinthians, this was like 5 hours ago. Corinthians said that he's gonna be punished, especially after not going to training a day after the game, and after the incident was happened, and you know the front office wait for the player to go on Thursday morning to the training facility to see what punishment they're gonna do it.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what the end result of that situation is.
Yeah, and I just feel bad for Vitor Pereira. He looks like a good coach. I think he is a very experienced and knowledgeable coach, but he is not handling uh, the players well. I think he's trying to kind of do like a very different formations and trying to rest some players and play others. Because if you ask Corinthians fans, what is the starting lineup of Corinthians today? They don't know because the coach always trying to rest some, play some, rest some, play some.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And Corinthians has a lot of veteran players, and and those veteran players they used to be on the starting lineup.
Yeah. It's, yeah. Gonna be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, Corinthians now, even though they're technically in the first place, I don't think it's gonna last. I think either Palmeiras or Atlético Mineiro are gonna win to get the first place back. I you know, I how can I say I don't see Corinthians stay on the top very much. But another, team that has really tough moments right now is Flamengo. They lost another game today. They lost to Bragantino 1-0. They scored on the 17th minute. But Flamengo right now is they lost their second consecutive game. Things for Paulo Souza are looking terrible, are looking really bad, you know. And the thing is, Jorge Jesus right now, he's not an option anymore. He went to Turkey, coach Fenerbahce, and and if Flamengo decides to get rid of Paulo Souza, they have to pay, the contract up to 8 million euros.
Man, that's not a good place to be at. I mean, I just know that from experience with the Vols, like just being in constant buyout hell
Yeah,
is never good.
and, and
Um,
this one they have to pay it because in Brazil when they fire coaches normally like Brazilian coaches, they sometimes can go to court and take years to get. But with an international coach, they had an international contract that's binding with FIFA. So if Flamengo doesn't pay the buyout, they get problems, with signing players or even get points deduct.
yeah, you can't you cannot make the international governing body mad at all. Um, yeah, but from Lingo, losing to the last place team, that's
Yeah,
that's
that
never good.
was on
You need
Sunday.
points where you can get them, and to not get points against the worst team. I mean, that's good. That's not gonna go well.
And that was on Sunday, and that was on Sunday, and that was on Sunday. They lost, and today they lost to like a, let's say they were on the middle of the table, but still they had it to win today to kind of like answer back to the fans, but they just couldn't. They lost it again.
Yeah, just not definitely not good. And of course, this was the team that that you mentioned a few weeks ago, where like they have the coach that the fans really want. So I can only
Yeah,
imagine that the fervor is probably at a high pitch at the moment.
but this coach is signed with a team from Turkey called Fenerbahce,
Yeah,
so he's out of the market.
yeah,
I guess it create reliefs, but still, the fans are upset. They are angry. But now they were before even the team was winning. Imagine now the team is on a two-game losing streak.
Yeah, they're gonna be calling for Lane Kiffin sooner rather than later, or something like that. Uh,
Yeah,
but obviously, I don't know who the candidates would be if they got rid of Paulo
I,
Souza.
I yeah, that's tough to say what coaches they'll be looking. I would think maybe it's hard to say actually because they alienated all their candidates. Renato Gaúcho. He's not gonna go back after the way he was fired. Jorge Jesus, he was begging to come back, but now he decide not to wait anymore and side with a team from Turkey. So Flamengo, that's why they are not fired Paulo Souza yet. I think it's a lack of options. They didn't know where to go because they created this problem. Because the way they manage from coach to coach after Jorge Jesus left in 2020, all the top coaches, they are, I wouldn't trust to go with Flamengo, even though they had really good players. They the situation is getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's a toxic situation when you have the fan base that wants one thing, you got management that wants another, and then nothing's working on the field.
Yeah, you
Uh,
describe it perfectly. You describe it perfectly.
yeah, um, I don't know how you fix that within the season. It feels like something you have to wait till the off season to fix.
Yeah, and the problem was that they had a really bad offseason, in my opinion, because they went to Portugal to sign Jorge Jesus, but then they signed Paulo Souza. So, you know, they chose a coach like, we trust this guy, but he was not our first option, but we trust him.
Yeah, did they say publicly he wasn't the first option?
I mean, that was obvious. That was obvious. They went to Portugal to get Jorge Jesus, not Paulo Souza. That was obvious for everyone to see it.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just Jorge Jesus
that's
wasn't.
like going to I mean, it's like going out and like trying to get Nick Saban's like, and then you end up with Brian Harson. It's like, oh yeah, we truly trust Brian Harson, even though we wanted Nick Saban. But
Yes, yes. It's like you went to Alabama, like NFL team went to Alabama to get a new head coach. They went to Tuscaloosa first, but then they went to Auburn, like get like Gus Malzahn, like yeah, we trust this guy, but that was obvious he wasn't the first choice. That
yeah,
was Flamingo did it. You
that sounds
know,
like a Tennessee level coaching search.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Flamingo is like, it's a lot of Tennessee, a lot of money, a lot of voices, but no. And the problem is they're still living on this, scenario that they're just close enough of 2019 level of winning, and oh my, Grant Williams just got an
Oh,
altercation with Damon Green.
yeah, Draymond Green has been a menace this entire series. I really the entire postseason. He's been a menace. Yeah, Grant Williams, look, he's about to punch him like he is. He's got an intense because Grant Williams, he gets that intense look in his eye. Oh yeah, great. Draymond flopped hard. Draymond flopped. I bet that crowd's booing so hard because I got it on mute. So you
Yeah,
score
me
right now
too.
39-27 Celtics, 9:35 left in the second quarter. Klay Thompson has 10 points.
I'm a little bit ahead of you, so it's 42-27 here with 9:14 to go.
Yeah, and I just saw where Pritchard scored that free pointer. But yeah, but could you just imagine, like, just about us watching Graham a couple of years ago, and now he's out here having beefs with Draymond Green.
Yeah, it's so
That's
crazy.
awesome.
That's awesome. I'm so happy. I remember talking to him on the off season back in 2020, and that was a moment I'll never forget.
I know.
And, or,
It's
or
awesome.
especially when he went to watch Tennessee volleyball with Admiral Schofield, and they're just so you know love Tennessee and love playing every minute. I knew he was gonna be destined for greatness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully this is not the last time. Also, want to shout out the Braves. They're up 13-2 on the Oakland A's tonight. Of course, perhaps probably soon to be the Las Vegas A's, if we're being honest.
Yeah, this Oakland A's situation, they just want to get. I just feel for the city of Oakland. In a
All
space of 10 years, they lost their basketball team, which I felt like they weren't true Oakland, but they play at Oakland. But now they fell very San Francisco, I guess. But they lost it. They lost their NFL team, which were the identity of Oakland. The Raiders felt like Oakland, and they left. And now the A's are going to leave too, which
Yeah.
they're in the Coliseum. I guess the Coliseum right now, when the A's leave, they just going to get demolished because now it's an abstrosity right now with the problems that the stadium and the attendance right now. Even the AAA team of Oakland has a better attendance than the Oakland A's.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a disaster. Um, but we'll say on the topic of the Braves, real quick though, about to win their seventh straight game. I feel like I've heard the story before where the Braves struggled to begin the year, but start getting things together um, towards the middle of the year. Ronald Acuna had 3 straight appearances where he homered. Um, not saying it's going to end in the same result, but just keep an eye on those Braves. About to be 30. They were 23-27, but they're now about to be 30-27. So we'll have to see what happens the rest of the year.
Yeah, but the Yankees right now, I mean, they are losing 6-1 to the Twins, but they're starting really hot this season. I mean,
Yeah,
they're 40-15. They're on a 7-game winning streak. They won 8 out of the last 10 games.
right. I did get to see the World Championship trophy on Saturday. I went to a concert festival on Saturday, and they had the Braves World Series championship trophy there. So that was a lot of fun to see.
Oh yeah, I imagine. I love seeing those trophies. It's just I feel like Brazil should do more of that. Like
Yeah,
have those kind of like fancy trophies and
not
you
as
know.
big as you think it would be too. Like it's a lot smaller than it looks on TV, but it's a beautiful trophy. It's actually the second trophy I've ever seen because I saw the Grey Cup a couple of years ago. The Canadian League trophy, because there's a local one of the football coach who won a couple of years ago is from around here. So um, yeah, it's always cool to get to see those big trophies.
But the trophy for me, which the most beautiful one, is the Libertadores trophy because they have the symbols of every winner. Every team that won is there on the trophy.
Oh, that's so cool.
So for me, the Libertadores trophy is the coolest.
Yeah,
And to finish the Brazilian topics, Brazilian Cup bracket for the round of 16, amazing. Amazing. Big games only. You had two interstate rivals, Corinthians Santos, Sao Paulo, and Palmeiras. And then you have another two interstates from other states, Atlético Goianiense, Ceará, Atlético Goianiense, Goiás, Fortaleza, and Ceará. Also, two big teams from there, two big matchups. But also, you have Fluminense, Cruzeiro, two big teams. American Botafogo, which they're trying to make the best this season they can get, and Atlético Mineiro and Flamengo. Those teams have been hating each other for the past year and a half. There's so much rivalries because, Flamengo lost the final a couple of months back to Atlético Mineiro, but Atlético Mineiro also won the Brazilian national championship over Flamengo, and Atlético Mineiro fans just hate Flamengo because of a lot of controversies in the past. But now Flamengo fans hate Atlético Mineiro. So really big matchups. Really big matchups.
yeah. And by the way, so if you don't understand what you're seeing on the second outside of the team names, those are the state abbreviations.
Yes.
Here for our American viewers.
Yeah, that's true. It's the since the Brazilian Cup, we have the state on in front of every team. Sorry, just I'm so used to.
Yeah, because I took me a second to realize what those were, but I'm like, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the state. But you see a lot of same states playing each other. I think you noticed.
Yeah, so we got two Inter-Sao Paulo matchups. I'm not sure what the GO is.
Goiás, which is Maryland, the Brazilian Maryland, which is the state around DC.
Okay. Yeah, around Brasilia.
Yeah.
Then quick, RJ, you got a couple of teams from Rio de Janeiro. You have MG, which is it Monero? Is it MG?
Minas Gerais. There's a lot of Minas Gerais versus Rio de Janeiro team.
Yeah.
And then Ceará is in the Northeast. And both are having really good seasons. Ceará is undefeated on the Sul-Americana tournament, and Fortaleza went to the playoffs in the Libertadores.
I love
So
how Bahia is carrying. I don't know what BA stands for, but I love how it's Bahia is carrying that whole state.
yeah, Bahia is Bahia right now is carrying the state because Vitoria, which is the rival, is in the third division. I guess they're a little bit better now, but Bahia right now is in top of the second division. They are, representing the state, and they are the best team in the state. They won the Brazilian national championship in 1988. They are the most traditional one.
And also, the team they're playing too. They're the only team from their state as well. So
Yeah, Atlético Paranaense, which is also one of the best teams in the last 5 years. They won two Sul-Americanas. They won the Brazilian Cup. They have Felipão, the coach that took Brazil to the 2002 World Cup and also lost in 2014. So Felipão, the legendary coach, also coached Portugal. He's back on the scene with Atlético Paranaense,
yeah,
and
so
he's really good at playoffs. He's a master of winning playoff tournaments.
I can only imagine just how big this is. Definitely, especially those two Inter Sao Paulo matchups. As like Atletico Mineiro versus Flamengo is going to be a really good one.
Yeah,
yeah. Of course, Flamengo. I mean, they definitely need something positive.
Oh yeah, they need it. Definitely.
They need that game.
But I know a lot of you. I know for you, a lot of those games are going to be purely just pick. But let's do just a little. Let's say, I'll say like picking winners. Let's say Corinthians Santos. I'm gonna go Corinthians. Corinthians still better team, better. I think they're gonna advance. I go Corinthians.
I'll go Corinthians too.
Sao Paulo and Palmeiras. I'm gonna go São Paulo. Even though Palmeiras has a better team, I think São Paulo is more clutch. I think especially São Paulo wants to revenge the Paulista lost back a couple of months ago. So I'm gonna go São Paulo, which is the only team out of those four who have not won the Brazilian Cup.
So that'd be pretty cool because I know Palmeiras, they've been winning everything, it seems like.
Yeah,
but, I got to go with Palmeiras because they have the experience to win experience in all these different competitions. And I think, especially in a system like this where you're playing so many different tournaments and so many different competitions, I think, the experience it seems like it would snowball between competitions. So
that's a good point.
I definitely would like Palmeiras there.
That's a good Bahia Atlético Paranaense. I'm gonna go Atlético Paranaense. I think they're more experienced. They have Felipão, which is used to this kind of tournaments. I'm gonna go Atlético Paranaense.
I'll Atlético too.
Atlético Goianiense and Goiás. This is a tough one because I think both teams are having an okay-ish season. Both are fighting to not get relegated in the Brazilian league. So I'm gonna go with Goiás.
Yeah, it's very interesting so they're both fine to not be relegated. So I mean that's a huge game just for momentum's sakes.
Yes.
I'll go Goiás. Yeah.
Fortaleza and Ceará. Ooh, that's I think a defining moment on both on their seasons because I feel like both are having so much success in different competitions, but they're not having collide in a big moment. I'm gonna go Fortaleza. I think they're getting better right now. I think they have a better moment. I'm gonna go Fortaleza.
I'll go Fortaleza too.
Fluminense Cruzeiro. Both experienced teams. Both have players that play on each other's side. But Cruzeiro is having a really good year. I did not expect them to be leading the second division. Ronaldo, the former striker, Brazilian striker, he's the part owner of the team, and he is doing a really good job. I'm gonna go Cruzeiro.
Yeah, and definitely if they're leading that second division, I mean, so in the first division next year, and definitely a chance to build up, to build up momentum for that. Fluminense, they're in the first division, right? Fluminense.
Yes, they're in the first division, even though they are, on the top, and they're actually winning a big game, 5-3 versus Atlético Mineiro. I mean, It's been a heck of a game.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of scoring.
Yeah, and they're still in the 65 minutes.
A lot of time left for more scoring. Give me Fluminense. I
Yeah,
like that. I like that offense. I know obviously it sounds like Cruzeiro's doing very well. They're playing their way into that first division, but definitely when you play the top teams every single week in the first division, I think that will pay off in a competition like this.
America Mineiro versus Botafogo. I think it's a really important game for Botafogo because they're having a good momentum. The fans are showing up. They're excited, especially with their new owner, John Textor. But they need something to be proud of. I know they lost a home game versus Goiás on Monday for the Brazilian National Championship, but they need to show their fans there can be successful. Not only they have to deliver the expectations that this new front office with John Textor has arrived. I think this is the moment. Give me Botafogo.
I'm gonna go with Botafogo. Let's go, John Textor. Ran with the American.
And this last matchup, I think that's the hardest to pick because both teams both fan bases are not happy with their teams because of the amount of expectations both have. They both hate each other. I'm gonna go Flamengo. When Flamengo is down in crisis, that's when they play their better on those kind of moments.
I'm going to Atletico Mineiro. I think Flamengo sounds like they're kind of in a tailspin right now. It sounds like the club doesn't know what they want to do. It sounds like no one agrees on anything. Just from experience from watching athletic departments with that typically doesn't result well in big moments. Give me Atletico Mineiro.
So that's the round of 16 in the Brazilian Cup. A lot of fans are saying, "Oh, this was fixed. The drawing was fixed." That's stupid. That's stupid. I would be happy if even if it was fixed because it just gave us a lot of big matchups, a lot of good teams play against each other in a playoff mode. Don't fans want to see that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, you want to see rivalries, you want to see all of that. So it's not like it's going to be a very fun round of competition.
Yeah, and I think after that round of 16, there's going to be some teams disappointed and some teams are going to be feeling good about themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
But let's get to hot takes with you first.
All right, so kind of circling back to the NBA Finals, I do have a bit of a complaint. Why is the schedule so weird? So we had game 1 on Thursday, we had game 2 on Sunday, now we just had game 3 tonight. Why do we have 3 days in between all the games instead of 2? I feel like it really destroys the momentum of the series. And it really prevents either team from gaining momentum throughout the series, like it causes the series to last for like 20 days. And when the series is not happening, it's easy to forget that it's even happening, instead of it happening constantly. Like, I feel like, because you look at the World Series, right? Like, you have like 2 days in between. You have one Super Bowl. The Stanley Cup is every other day. But the NBA Finals is every 3 days. And I know this doesn't sound like a big problem, but I really think it is because I think it's bad for momentum. Like, especially if you're not sitting down and watching ESPN all day. I mean, it's easy to forget.
Yeah, I was surprised the game was even today. I thought it was going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, like it needs to be every other day. It needs to be more concise, and just to get that momentum. Because I feel like having it every 3 days like this, it causes it to lose its momentum.
And bringing back to your hot take, my hot take is going to be about scheduling too, because this new kind of style of scheduling, which you have games basically every day, makes fans confusing. My grandma was even asking me, Corinthians playing tomorrow, but normally they play on Wednesday, or like, and I have to speak grandma nowadays. Teams play every day. There's no like Wednesday and Sunday schedules only. teams play now every day, and fans in Brazil has been more confusing than ever. Like this year, to watch the Brazilian national championship. There's on Global, which they have the Sport TV, which is like their ESPN, the cable. Then you have pay per view, but now you have Amazon Prime. Even on Twitch, you have to get some games on Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, for older fans especially, I mean, how are they going to use Twitch?
Yes, that's why a lot of fans are complaining in Brazil. Like this new service streaming, I think they're going so fast, they're forgetting that a lot of people in Brazil, especially with the economy that has been not great for the past few years, a lot of people don't have the luxury to have three, four streaming services or have even the luxury to have a laptop or smart TV. I mean, I take advantage of that because I broadcast games on the radio. So older people are gonna rely on that to find it because they know that if the game's on not on TV, it's on radio.
Right. Definitely, on the way, I think it's going to force back a bit of tradition.
Yeah, that's a big problem. It makes fans kind of confused and lose the tradition.
Because I feel like in America, we're kind of used to streaming at this point with sports, and more people are getting used to it. But definitely, in other countries, I guess just they haven't done it for as long, so it's going to be a rough transition.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be a rough transition. I feel it, definitely feel it. It's yeah, but I guess comparing to like NBA scheduling, like it makes fans kind of lose track of game dates.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the best schedule is NFL because every Sunday afternoon there in the fall there's going to be games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why NFL is king and not even close? Because they tweak on stuff that probably fans are mad, but they don't get rid of traditions. They're never gonna get rid of their three games on Thanksgiving. They're not expanding even on Christmas, and they don't care about NBA because they saw how NBA don't have the popularity of the past, so they're gonna go for it.
Oh, of course, and the NFL will kill them in ratings on Christmas, especially with that Broncos Rams matchup. That's on Christmas Day, so you know where you're gonna be able to find the NFL. The NBA sometimes is all over the place. Like not everyone has NBA TV. Sometimes like MLB, it's kind of hard to find sometimes. Yeah, so the king is definitely the NFL.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
I
the
do
thing is,
want to finish off the episode with a quote that I just saw. But finish up what you're gonna say.
no, I was gonna say also like that's why the NFL is took over and not even close. And just quick update: 58-49, 3 minutes and 23 seconds in the NBA Finals. Celtics up by 11 by 9.
Also, shout out to our friend Jason Wyrick. He just said hi, friends, in the comments.
Whoa! Hi, Jason. We're gonna get you. I was Jason's birthday this week.
Happy birthday to him. We're definitely gonna have to bring him on at some point. And talk. When we get closer, gotta talk about the AFC South and see what's gonna happen there. And of course, we talked about Louisville earlier, and I don't know if you saw that part, Jason, but we both picked Louisville to beat Texas A&M. So we are on the Cardinals to get to Omaha. But speaking of Omaha, just to finish off the episode, so there's a quote about Notre Dame coming to Knoxville. So a source, because Notre Dame went to Mississippi State last year for the Super Regionals. So this is what the quote said. Notre Dame fans and players should know this will be very different than Starkville. Not as many fans as Mississippi State because the park is small, but the fans aren't very welcoming like in Starkville. Tennessee fans will be tough on the players and not welcoming the Notre Dame fans. It's a much different atmosphere. Starkville is a party atmosphere for home and opposing fans. Knoxville is intense and will not treat you like guests. They live pitch by pitch and will be louder than any place Notre Dame has played. They will not feed Notre Dame barbecue like at Mississippi State after the game. They want to beat Notre Dame 40-0. There will be kids at the frat house on the white field line screaming at Notre Dame's players during practice before the game and during the game. It's a
Wow.
circus. That fires me up, man. Go Vols. Let's get back to Omaha.
Oh yeah, it definitely. It's like one of the things that like makes you excited about is like kind of makes you wanted the game to arrive today.
I know, right? Because because it feels like college baseball has had this like kind of good boy atmosphere, like a whatever atmosphere, but like Tennessee fans have come in and we've like upended the whole deal, and everyone hates us for it. And Jason absolutely agrees. Lindsey Nelson Stadium is the most hostile baseball atmosphere in the country. Absolutely, like it is different. We treat it like it's a football game.
I think it's because the football has not delivered for the Vols. They take every chance they get to be proud of in the sport.
I mean, it's been a lot. I mean, this is the most dominant Tennessee team I've seen in any sport since probably the Lady Vols back in like 2007, 2008. And I hope for this baseball team, it ends the same way it did for those Lady Vols teams. And that's with a national championship. But there's a long way to go. Notre Dame's a solid team. Got to get them out there. Hopefully, Blake Tidwell goes out there, has a great game one. I imagine he'll be the starter on Friday. I'll be curious to get to go with game two because Chase Dolander did not play very well against Campbell, but he's been really good all year. Jason said Tennessee fans are sick of being the doormats and treated as such. Our fans are out for blood. And then especially just imagine, too, if we go out and win this College World Series and then we take that fan momentum into the fall for football, it's going to be a fun time for visitors in Neyland Stadium, especially that Florida game in Week 4. So it's going to be good.
I'm excited too. Can't wait, and I'll be watching the Vols because I know how good they are in baseball right now.
Yeah, let's just hope they can break the trend of one seeds not winning the World Series because only one seed has won since 2000. So, but go Vols. For Jason, go Cardinals. Beat the Aggies, and it's about time for us to wrap up here because I will soon be working this night shift on another early Thursday morning in Chattanooga. But for Gus Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nicholas Hill, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. You've been watching Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports was episode 29, recorded on June the 8th, 2022. Take it easy. Y'all stay safe and have a good week.